And just want to start very quickly. I want to start with a short introduction to our program. I think we are at this point, I think we are ready to start. I hope everyone who's interested has already tuned in. I want to welcome everyone, Gina, Julia, Stacey, and Wendy, our panelists. Thank you so much. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for agreeing to spend some time with the students and with the community and have this panel conversation as part of our Dow Entrepreneurship Saginaw Valley University entrepreneurial event. Quick information about me, because I know some students that are tuning in tonight, but not everyone knows me. So I want to make sure that you guys know who I am and how to connect with me. My name is Izabela Szymańska. I am currently in charge of our Dow Entrepreneurship Institute. I also teach some classes at SVSU, mostly in the area of entrepreneurship, family business management. And I'm really looking forward to working with all of you. Let me show you a little bit more about what we offer, okay? So we have some academic courses in entrepreneurship. I'm gonna talk about this briefly in a second. But within our Dow Entrepreneurship Institute, we offer a range of different events. We have some entrepreneurial infrastructure that you will be able to check out very soon. We are currently on the market equipping our new product innovation hub space. It's going to be a maker space in our new Scott L. Carmona College of Business. At the very bottom, in the corner of that building, there will be a place where students and also in the future members of the public will be able to come and use 3D printers, screen printing machines, welding equipment, a range of different options, maybe to create that first prototype. Or some people are using maker spaces to sell some things on Etsy as well. So we are also working closely with a range of companies in the region to offer some internships. We guide students, we mentor them. We do also some small scale consulting projects for local businesses. If any entrepreneur is thinking about doing a reality check on their business, collecting some surveys, interviews with actual customers, or maybe creating a marketing plan, or maybe creating a social media plan to be able to really reach as many people as possible, we are there to help. And we in our classes, we work with actual entrepreneurs all the time. I'm teaching one class this semester, and we are students are actually designing a marketing campaign on Facebook for that particular gentleman. And we want to hear from you. If there is any student that is thinking about any business idea, we offer some networking and help with fleshing it out. And when the time comes, there are also some opportunities to win some money or get grants or any other things that may be helpful when it comes to funding, okay? So we are there for you, okay? When it comes to our entrepreneurship courses, they are open to all students. You really don't have to be a business student to participate in our entrepreneurial curriculum. We have some programs for business majors, and we have some programs for non-business majors, okay? So again, if you are interested, I think I would be a really good point of contact, okay? We'll have this semester an event that's going to be a pitch competition. Albert Einstein said that if you cannot explain something very, very simply, you probably don't understand it enough, okay? So taking this principle to heart, this semester, we will be having our elevator pitch competition November 19th. Information about how to log in, how to register for this event, how to prepare your pitch is going to be available on the website very soon. Please let me know if you are interested. You can connect with me. I'll help you. I am not going to be one of the judges, so I am in a position to help you flesh out this business idea. You don't have to have the company yet. It's enough just to have an idea that you would like to pitch. But at the same time, there has to be more information that will have to be contained in your pitch when it comes to financials, channels that you're going to use. So idea is good, but if you want to talk more about how to do it, we are here to help. So in an elevator pitch competition, you don't use any slides or props. In our competition, you have 2 minutes, which is 120-second pitch. Some places do it over 1 minute. I can tell all the students that 2 minutes is easier. It's way easier. First place, $2,000. Second place, $1,000. Okay. Third place, $500. Okay. If you are interested, please go to our website, and we are waiting to hear from you. Okay. I want to ask at this point the students and community members that are tuning in, are there any questions? Okay, I am not hearing anything. Thank you. So I need to take a time to welcome our panelists and thank them again that they agreed to connect with us, okay? We have Wendy, we have Stacey, we have Gina, and we have Julia. And all of them have built successful businesses. All of them are women entrepreneurs. We are really looking forward to hear their stories and learn about the industries and learn about their journeys. Okay? Each panelist will take roughly 20 minutes, okay, to tell us their story. And after each panelist we have gone through all the ladies, and they had the opportunity to talk to us. There will be a time for questions and for all the interactions, okay? So without any, don't want to spend more time on this, so I would like to introduce to you Gina Adams, okay? Gina is the founder and CEO of Wareologie, okay? A company that is a social venture startup. Gina creates hardware that is added to regular buttons and allows people that have dexterity and mobility limitations to be able to dress and sometimes just undress themselves. So she invented a patent pending buttons to button magnetic adapters, okay? And it's currently a company flagship product after witnessing the severe impacts of Parkinson's on her stepfather, okay? I can tell you that my mom doesn't have a Parkinson's disease, but she likes the adapters too. Gina also founded and serves on the as the executive director for environmental nonprofit Peace, Love, and Planet. Okay, this nonprofit was started in 2008. Okay, so this organization serves businesses and schools with implementing sustainable programs to reduce costs through waste reduction and food conservation strategies. Peace, Love, and Planet are recognized nationally for the Go Green grants they administer to student lead groups. Gina holds a bachelor's degree in human environment and design from MSU and also a master's degree in business administration from Wayne State University. Gina, welcome again. Thank you very much for connecting with us. And the floor is yours. Please tell us the story, how you started the business, and share any insights that you may have.
Well, thank you, Isabella. Hello, it's so nice to be here. Is it okay if I share my screen so we can go?
Absolutely, yes. You have a button at the very button at the very bottom. Yes.
I'm gonna do it, I think. Do I have to select there? All right, we got it. So, all right, great. Now you guys can see my screen with all of you on my screen.
Yes.
That's good. We're getting there. We're getting there.
Yes.
So thank you for that introduction. It's really nice to be here. And if I would have had a larger screen, because, you know, we're kind of a small, intimate group here, I would love, you know, comments and questions as we go along. But it's weird with the way I'm sharing. I can't see any raised hands. So, you know, thank you. Wareologie, as Isabella explained, really was inspired by some personal tragedy. And can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So, you know, the idea is, sadly, we all know somebody, and whether it's Parkinson's or a stroke or arthritis or just simply aging, neuropathy, dexterity challenges are a very common symptom to numerous illnesses. And, you know, when I started researching how large the problem was, you know, like so my dad had Parkinson's, and just witnessing the devastating impact, not only how that the loss of independence in that physical aspect, but how there's a ripple effect emotionally, right? When somebody who's used to, you know, he was an incredible guitar player, he was a PhD engineer, you know, it was just really tragic. And as it turns out, 1 out of 6 Americans have some form of disability and cannot dress independently. So I decided to, you know, look into this. And we could say ironically, but so my background is in the apparel industry. And when I graduated from MSU, I worked for the North Face out in Colorado. And at the time, I would volunteer to teach people with disabilities how to ski. This was, right, 30 years ago. And at the time, it was really obvious that clothing designed for able-bodied individuals like us, it does not work well for people that have physical challenges. And even though my career path kind of took a different turn, and I went on and I worked for Spider and J. Crew. It wasn't until 2015, 2000, and that when I, really witnessed the impact of Parkinson's on my dad. And when I started looking for solutions, it seemed like everything in the market is very medicinal, kind of institutional looking. And we know that with 10,000 professionals retiring every day, people take pride in their independence and their appearance. And I wanted to be able to come up with a solution to help. And so I went back to school, as Isabella mentioned, and got my MBA, and I was able to recruit classmates to conduct case studies and customer discovery interviews. And we interviewed over 300 individuals. And this is a massive problem that impacts 76 million Americans. And of course, there's a ripple effect on caregivers like my mom, who spend anywhere from 14 to 34 hours a week tending for their loved one. And the strain on that relationship, where people go from being a wife and a friend and a lover to that of a caregiver, is incredibly draining on the mind, body, and spirit. And so I wanted to help. And we, this video, maybe it will play. I'm going to try it. This is my friend Pauline Victoria.
As somebody with a disability, there's already this barrier or this feeling like you don't fit in. And so on the outside, you try to do everything else to try to fit in. You try to wear nice clothes so you can present yourself as someone who has intelligence and is credible and people can relate to. And having fashion that reflects how I feel on the inside is so important to me, without losing the functionality of the fashion. So it's not fashion over function. It's like this beautiful marriage and harmonious relationship where they can both live and be a reflection of how I feel on the inside. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, right? Like I feel.
So Pauline is amazing, and she's just one of the many people I have met on this journey. But I'm so glad the video worked, because it's people see the wheelchair first, and so it's unfortunate, but we make these presumptions, and our clothing is an outward expression of our individual personality. And right now, the options are not great. We'll say that. And I am so thankful for the opportunity. These are both clients from the Rehab Institute of Michigan, when we had idea. And it's like, well, is it just my dad, or how large is this problem? And when we conducted focus groups, I partnered with the industrial design students at Wayne State. And we went in and interviewed over 37 individuals who are in wheelchairs with spinal cord injuries of various degrees. And the first thing they said is, we want tuxedos. And I was totally shocked. But the reality is, no matter what your disability is, people want to look and feel their best. And so we took a lot of notes, and we went back, and this group of students, they developed an entire assortment to address activities like plowing snow, or how do you keep your clothes clean when there's a backsplash from wheels? How do you, Yvette, who's on the right here, how do you hold your baby safely? And, you know, Pauline is a mother. And in my own bias, I was so surprised when I learned Pauline was born without arms and a leg. But yet she is just the most inspirational, talented, intelligent, thoughtful individual. And like I said, I think she explains it best in terms of just how important our clothing is. So I researched, and we looked at, I always had this idea of how can my dad wear the closet of clothes that he's accumulated over a lifetime that express his unique personality. And so that's when I came up with our first solution. But then I also met James Murtha, our Chief Innovation Officer, along with all these other people, and realized that there are activities like opening a door that are really difficult for people. And so how can we empower them through stylish accessories, like you wear your watch, that are an outward reflection of your personality? So Wareologie develops hardware, and we found some great strategic partners now to really empower people with independence and dignity. We have our own new developments, as you can see on the top, and I've taken the time during COVID-19 to find some strategic alliances that have just some incredible products and pool our marketing and access to sales channels. As a startup, I can tell you that it's one thing to have a great idea, but promoting it and finding people and educating them, particularly on a first-to-market product, is challenging. And so this co-collaboration has been amazing, because now we can expand our reach to other people that we serve. So it seemed logical, with 30 million people with dexterity challenges, to start and launch a company with buttons-to-button magnetic adapters. Literally, you convert your button shirt into a magnetic closure, and it makes dressing super simple. They're sold in sets of 10, and it's a no-sew, affordable, yet machine washable solution. And the great thing is you can transfer them from one shirt to another for seasonal style. So I love that. Now that it's fall, people can start pulling out your flannels. And really our value proposition is restoring independence and valuable time. I've spoken to people that it takes them 20 minutes to button their shirt. And, you know, these are activities that you and I take for granted. And it's, you know, like unscrewing a lid or pinching a piece of jewelry. And so we're really excited to make one of our activities of daily living easy. The competition, there's a button hook, but if you have tremors, it's not very functional. There is a magnetic adapter that's not machine washable, and the idea is once installed, this product, you can wash you don't have to rely on a caregiver, my point is. And then there are adaptive shirts with magnets sewn into the lapel. They range from $65 to $100, and they lack assortment. So this, we have a first to market competitive advantage, and we're super excited. Last year, global, looks like I have the US market here, was apparel, shoe, adaptive shoe, and accessory market was $44.6 billion. And so we are targeting people that are experiencing our niche market, people experiencing their disability for the first time and their caregivers. And the great thing is just in the past 2 to 3 years since we launched this company, we have really popular brands that are paving the way to consumer awareness. And so now people are kind of actively seeking adaptive apparel solutions, and we see them as distribution partners. So as an entrepreneur, I love this slide because, and I know that the other women in the panel will speak to this, but you have to wear a lot of hats, and development, particularly with a consumer product, is not straightforward. So you have the product design and testing the functionality of it and making sure that you can get it to help. You know, we're not in the business to just sell stuff. The idea is that we want to empower people. And so it's kind of a tall order. But the other pillar, of course, is manufacturing and making sure that you can bring this to market at a competitive price, find those sales channels, and have a sustainable company. I am the executive director of Peace, Love, and Planet. I tell you, running a nonprofit, it can be sustainable, but I was interested in some immediate returns, and helping people seem like a great next step in my business entrepreneurship. So then I'm glad that Isabella talked about the pitch competition, because everybody watching, if you qualify, should definitely try that out. I think 120 seconds sounds not like a lot of time to pitch an entire company, but an idea, certainly. And we have bootstrapped our company through pitch competitions and grants, personal investment, and we still seek investment partners. But the other great thing about this space, of course, is networking. And so I have to give a plug for Stacey Feeley right now, who will speak momentarily. But I met her through Blue Water Angels, which is a VC funding group. And the owner, he suggested that I reach out to Stacey and kind of learn some of the barriers and ups and downs. And Stacey, she gave me some of the best advice ever. And one was to get out of my bubble of Southeast Michigan here in Detroit and look at other grants. You can, you know, or look at other pitch competitions. You can apply for pitch competitions in any state. It doesn't really matter where your demographics are, although sometimes they are focused on bringing regional economic development to that specific city. But I went back to Grand Rapids, which is my hometown, and pitched at Start Garden. And out of an initial 700 contestants, we had to submit. The only application was a 60-second pitch. It was a video pitch. And so I did that, and then we were selected. And the nice thing about Start Garden is they are not the traditional stage pitch. They provided a 10 by 10 space, and the judges walked around and you could sell your pitch. So we had a great opportunity to get our trade show booth situated. And so it was great because it put my hand to the fire. We did a great presentation, our trade show booth, and we won that pitch. And that $20,000 win was the golden ticket that we needed to move forward with manufacturing last September, a year ago this year, and manufacture our first, what we know as minimum viable product right here in Metro Detroit. So really exciting, and I thank you so much, because I'm not sure I would still be here without that encouragement. And then, so great, right? We have a product. We are bootstrapping this. You can see all the different design iterations to make sure that it's machine washable, that it's functioning, it's beautiful. And then comes commercialization, which I'm really excited about. And I think I have one video at the end. And so I look forward to your questions. But you got to have a great team, and it's really hard to have a great team, and you can't pay them. But but we are building and we are generating revenue. And so, with our team and the strategic advisors, and I do utilize and am grateful for the Lawrence Technological University, their Centropolis Accelerator, which has been instrumental in helping us find suppliers, materials, some fundraising. I'm sorry, I have a cat in the background that's creating a ruckus. But I like this slide because on the right, you can see that it takes a village. You've got to get out there and network. You've got to meet people. And there's so many SBDC grants that I have been fortunate enough to win to bootstrap this. So here's a quick video from Cheryl, our spokesperson.
I was a competitive swimmer growing up, and when I was 14 years old, I walked into swim practice one night and I never walked out. Our coach had us doing a new racing dive in the shallow end of the pool, and I hit my head at the bottom of the pool, and in an instant, my life changed, and I became a quadriplegic. To be able to try to button my shirt, as you can see, is pretty much impossible. With buttons to buttons, I can actually button my shirt faster than if I even had use of my hands. It's that fast. It's such a simple idea, but it's going to make such a huge impact in people's lives. You're giving them back, their self-confidence and their independence, and they're giving them back their choice. And that's all things that are so important.
So, yeah, that is us. And thank you for this opportunity to share my journey. It's been amazing. And I don't sleep a lot, but that's okay. It's great. And I will stop sharing and look forward to hearing from everybody else. Thanks.
Thank you. Gina, who designed the adapters for you? Did it start already at the university?
No, I have at the time, 12-year-old son that plays video games. And so I designed the adapters. I came up with this idea, the remote controls on video games. So I just wanted something easy that people could snap on in minutes, right? You can convert your shirt. And the other part, I had this idea of zip ties, like once you stick it in, it's permanent. And so the second part, I can give you, I don't know if you guys can see this, but so the one part is just like metal. It's ferritic. Okay. So that's what attracts the magnet. And you basically are replacing your shirt buttons with this fake button. So we're going to come up with some different colors to make it fun, of course. So you just snap that over there. And then the other part, this is this really cool, it's a plastic injection molded cap. So I said, give me a yard of fabric, I'll make you over. My background's in the apparel industry. I had to learn a whole new language in manufacturing. So this is a cool little cap that we injection mold a magnet. So you just pop this like Tupperware right over your button, and it snaps into place. And so what I didn't mention there, you got to file the patents. This is expensive. Prototypes, oh my gosh, it's just insane. But I'm helping people, so I keep going. We're going to help people. It's good.
Oh, you found a lot of help on the way too. So we'll talk a little bit more about this, because you did a lot of things yourself, but then there was a whole team that also,
couldn't be here without them. Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So let's move to our next panelist, and we'll have a little bit more time to talk more with Gina as well. I want to introduce Wendy Bloembergen. And a little bit more introduction will be done by my fantastic assistant. Morgan Radomski.
Thank you. And thank you for all of that, Gina. It was great to hear about. So up next, we have Dr. Wendy Bloembergen, which is with GreenMark Biomedical, which works in like the dental industry a little bit. But Wendy wears many hats within that company, and she will tell us a little bit more about that tonight.
Great. Thanks, Morgan. Can I share my screen? I have a presentation as well.
Absolutely, yes. There is a button at the very bottom that says share your screen.
Yes.
Share your screen.
I hope I'm sharing the right one here. Do you see my presentation?
We are seeing our faces, but once you open your presentation, we'll be able to see it. We are seeing your screen as you are seeing it.
Okay. Hang on. Okay, so you're not seeing it now?
We are seeing it, but in a small version of it.
Okay.
Maybe you can make it a little. I think you will need to put it on the full screen.
Okay, maybe it's that one.
Oh, yes.
Do you see it now?
Yes.
Okay. I clicked the wrong one, I think. Okay, do you see it now?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. All right. So you're seeing you're seeing my presentation now.
Yes,
okay.
I can see your presentation and I can see you at the same time.
Okay, and I can't see you guys anymore, so I guess that's why I'm a little bit thrown off here. But okay, thank you very much, Isabella, for the invitation to speak with you today and to share some of my experiences, and also to Morgan for the nice introduction, and to all of you for attending. So GreenMark Biomedical's mission is to enable oral healthcare professionals to preserve teeth through earlier diagnosis and non-invasive treatment. And we're doing this by commercializing what I would call next generation diagnostics and treatments for the dental industry. And I noticed in the title of this symposium that it's Life Lessons from Successful Women Entrepreneurs. Now, we are a pre-revenue company, so I'm not sure that everyone would agree that we've made it too successful, but I guess that's a relative term. And we have had a lot of success in our progress for a startup in the health space, so I guess that counts. So when Isabella invited...
It's a very tough space.
When Isabella invited me to speak, she told me that she was hoping that I could, because Saginaw Valley has a thriving science and engineering programs, and that many students are working towards degrees in health and human services, all of whom have very valuable skills to offer. And she thought that maybe my story in the science and health space might be relevant and resonate with some of you, and perhaps might even inspire you. She also mentioned that many of you have other big commitments, including work and family, and becoming an entrepreneur might seem out of reach. So I decided to go back right to my beginning and to tell you my full story. And maybe it will inspire you, and it will at least show you that there are many paths that one can take to becoming an entrepreneur. So I grew up on a farm in rural Ontario, Canada, and Isabella tells me that several of you are first generation to go to college. Well, let me tell you that I was a first generation college student, and although I had a very large extended family, like probably about 80 cousins, I was actually the first to go to a 4-year college. In Canada, they call that university. I studied biology, planning to be a biology teacher. But after 2 years, I applied to medical school, mainly because a friend was. I'd never really considered medicine before. There were no doctors in my family, but I was admitted, and that started a path of medical school, and then internship, and then residency in nephrology. So I'm actually a kidney specialist. I was drawn to evidence-based medicine and clinical research, so ending up coming to University of Michigan for a research fellowship and master's degree. And the culmination of that was to write an NIH caliber research grant. And that led to a faculty position with the University of Michigan School of Medicine, and where I did outcomes research in the area of end-stage kidney failure. So in the meantime, I got married during medical school, and I had my first son many years later, just before my research fellowship. And I took care of patients and taught students and did research, and then published some fairly important papers in my field. We had our second son and then our third son. And then my husband founded a startup company, Ecosynthetics, in Lansing, Michigan. And he was exceptionally busy, and I was commuting, and we had 3 kids, and life was crazy. And I had always been interested in entrepreneurship. So when the small boutique venture firm that invested in my husband's company offered me a position as a medical analyst, where I could work part-time at home for more money than my academic salary, I decided to do that. And I remember at the time, this whole world of business opening up to me. All my life, I had my nose in biology books and medical textbooks. I really had no idea that there were so many industries and so many companies in the world. I loved the prospect of medical innovation, and I really enjoyed reviewing business plans of medical startups and trying to pick the companies that would be successful. And then we had our 4th son, and the fund was all invested, and I decided to take some time to raise our family. So then I took a hiatus, which ended up being 15 years. But I like to think that I did a good job. My boys turned out okay, and they're kind, and they have good hearts, and they're best friends. So perhaps that's also like a component of success. And here's a recent photo of them with my new daughters. And when my 4th son was in high school, I was contemplating what I was going to do for the rest of my life. As my one son said to me, "I think you've still got some gas in the tank, Mom." I had kept my medical license active the whole time through continuing medical education, but I knew that I wasn't safe to practice without the cost and time of retraining. And with my prior exposure to the startup world, I actually told my husband one day, I think I'd like to work for a medical startup. Well, my husband, as I said, had founded Ecosynthetics based on a starch nanoparticle technology, which was used for bio-based replacement for petroleum in commodity products like paper binders and wood composites, benefiting the environment. And through an NIH grant, which actually I helped to write, the company produced some early data to support the possibility of using the starch nanoparticles for a targeted chemotherapy drug delivery. And a trainee by the name of Nathan Jones, who had completed his undergraduate co-op work terms at Ecosynthetics, decided to further explore that idea of a drug delivery project as a subject of a PhD at the University of Michigan. And there, through interactions with a professor in the dental school, it led to an invention where they placed fluorescent tags on the starch nanoparticle and then target them to porosities in teeth enamel that result from Caries disease or tooth decay, which, if left untreated, causes or progress to cavities. And I distinctly remember the day that Nathan joined us for Thanksgiving and showed us these pictures of starch nanoparticles illuminating demineralized areas of tooth enamel. And it was that day that we decided we had to try to commercialize this technology, and my second career began. So Isabella gave us a list of questions that we might answer, and one of them was, how did your company come to be? And in our case, it was pure serendipity. So GreenMark was founded in 2016, and we negotiated an option on the University of Michigan patent. Nathan, who was one of the inventors, was finishing his PhD, but was very involved, and I jumped on board to help. and we hit the ground trying to build a company. I provided a medical presence and provided guidance for all clinically related functions, including helping to assess product market fit and product development, assessing the competition, identifying and recruiting key opinion leaders to be advisors, figuring out a regulatory plan. But really, I was involved in everything. And as Gina said, as is typical with the startup, you wear many hats, and together, the three of us worked on all these various tasks. And then I also, unfortunately, got stuck with things like accounting and financials, where I was really outside of my comfort zone as a physician. So I'll get into these different tasks in a little bit more detail. But in terms of guidance to all of you, I do want to say that we utilized every resource that we could that was available to a startup. Because it was University of Michigan Technology, we had access to the U of M Tech Transfer Office, who provided great mentorship. We attended a boot camp type program where we had to interview dental stakeholders to determine if our prospective product was commercially viable. And we really attended anything that we could. We realized that we needed to develop some domain expertise to learn about this disease, dental caries, in order to gain credibility. Even though I was a doctor, I knew nothing about teeth. We really learned very little about teeth in medical school. But I could help a lot there. I was very familiar with doing literature searches in the medical literature. And I attended dental meetings pretending to be a dentist. I would go around the exhibit booths asking as many questions as I could to learn as much as I could. I would go through the program ahead of time and email all of the experts that were giving talks on dental caries and ask if we could meet with them to pick their brains. And we realized just having the MD behind my name really helped with that. And then with subsequent networking and future liaison with dental experts. What we knew early on was that dental caries is the most prevalent chronic disease in the world. 96% of Americans develop tooth decay in their lifetime. And we seem to have a method to detect it earlier. The tooth on the left has early disease, a white spot lesion. It's hard to see, but our technology illuminated it and made it much easier to visualize. And the reason that that's important is because what we learned is that the minute a dentist drills into your tooth or your child's tooth, it begins an irreversible restorative cycle to a larger filling, then a crown, then possibly a root canal or an extraction, and then maybe an implant. So if you could find this disease earlier, when it's referred to as a white spot, and stop its progression to a fully developed cavity, it would obviously be very beneficial. And we learned that the science has been out there for 20 years, that if you find caries disease early, it can be repaired using non-invasive treatments like fluoride varnishes and toothpaste and mouth rinses. The problem is that there are not good tools for the dentists, so the benefits of this minimally invasive approach is not being realized. We also learned that over $200 billion are spent globally on dental caries and its complications. And this is a recent review article, again, providing guidelines to dentists for a non-surgical approach to the management of caries, which unfortunately are not utilized enough, as there are no good ways to detect and monitor the success of non-invasive treatments. If we could, the benefit would be preservation of enamel and improved oral health outcomes. And I think this is where, for me, the project went from, I think I'd like to get involved in a medical startup, to a passion to help save the world's teeth. So before I get to fundraising, I know that the science and engineering and health majors are wondering how it works. So I'll briefly answer that. It's very simple. This is a cross-section of an early white spot lesion. Now, the surface normally remains intact, but the open microchannels allow acid resulting from sugary food to enter into the enamel. As the area becomes more porous over time, it weakens to the point that it collapses and a cavity forms. As calcium leaches away, it leaves behind negative charges all over the interior of the white spot lesion. And we therefore put the opposite charge on our nanoparticles to target the subsurface, and we tag them with a fluorescent dye so that they illuminate. Now, since then, we've also proved that we can load fluoride and essential minerals that are depleted as a result of tooth decay right inside the nanoparticles. And we're also working on a treatment for these early lesions. Current fluoride products just seal the enamel surface without restoring the dominant subsurface lesion, but our treatment is unique, and we believe that it will restore the entirety of the lesion. The nanoparticles are formulated in a mouth rinse, which is designed to be applied by the hygienist following a routine dental cleaning. That's for the diagnostic. We call it LumiCare Caries Detection Rinse. So it detects caries lesions on the tooth surface, which illuminate using a standard curing light found in every dentist's office. It's quick and it fits into the standard workflow of a routine dental exam. The rinse is applied for 30 seconds. Then there's a quick water rinse to remove the excess product, followed by a quick air dry, and then the dentist examines with a blue light. And then when they're successfully treated, the lesions, so this is what it looks like with the blue light. When successfully treated, they won't illuminate anymore. Now, our treatment product is at an earlier stage of development, but these are some photos of initial testing, which are really encouraging. On this tooth that's been treated, early white spot lesions fade away in a few weeks after a single application, draw on calcium present in the saliva to generate enamel-like crystals inside the early lesions, filling the enamel in a much more natural way. Mm-hmm. So we were learning all this information about teeth and enamel and caries and how our diagnostic could benefit humans, but we had to figure out how to fund the research and the development and all the other expensive tasks that we had to accomplish. That's a key difference with a medical technology company, that you need significant funds to support the R&D and the regulatory work before you actually sell anything. Fortunately, Stephen's prior company, Ecosynthetics, provided some startup funds and initial salary support, as our success would be a new revenue stream for them as suppliers of the nanoparticles. Now, coming from the medical world, where grant money to support improving patient outcomes is fairly available, I thought that this would be a no-brainer, that people would definitely want to invest. We worked hard to prepare and get an investor pitch ready, and we received invaluable input from the tech transfer office as well as the tech team at SVSU. We attended a one-week program with VentureWell, which was very helpful, particularly on the business aspects of the pitch. We researched investors and developed a spreadsheet to identify which ones would be a fit in terms of areas of interest in investment stage. We tried hard to get warm intros rather than sending out cold emails. Gradually, we got some meetings, but we heard a lot of, "You're a bit too early for us." And I felt like we were in this vicious circle where we needed money to accomplish the things to de-risk the project so that we wouldn't be too early to raise money. It was frustrating and extremely stressful, and it took a lot longer than we thought it would. My husband and I actually went without any income for a year. Fortunately, we had some resources to be able to put food on the table and pay our bills. Now, the other thing that we heard from investors why would a dentist want to use this? Because it would mean less drilling and filling for them, which as a physician drove me crazy. I'm thinking, are you kidding me? These are my teeth or my children's teeth that could benefit, and we're going to worry about the dentist's revenue. But investors think that way, and we learned that we needed to refine our business case and our value proposition. Isabella asked us to share challenges, and these were definitely a couple of them, but we kept persisting and believing in the project. And at the time, Nathan was finishing his PhD, and we risked losing him if we didn't have any funds to pay him. So we really exploited every granting source that we could. We applied for and were granted a SCIP grant, which supported him as a postdoc at a lab in the University of Michigan Dental School. which also began a collaboration with another professor there. And separately, investors wanted to understand our regulatory path, which required very expensive consulting, and we were awarded a BAF grant for that. And then we also submitted an NIH SBIR grant. So, and these grants, like my prior experience, my prior master's degree really helped with, grant writing. We ended up submitting an NIH SBI grant, which they actually have a low success rate, around 15%, but I think our big break was when we received that, because that was validation that this was real and that other scientists, reviewers ranked it high enough to receive NIH funds. So then that led to a Series seed investment led by Blue Water Angels in Saginaw, Michigan, who interestingly have a lot of health professionals in their group. So I think that's why they were the first to get the story. And since then, we've made good progress with our phase 1 NIH grant. So we've received a larger phase 2 grant, as well as now NIH grants in support of our treatment project. And we just recently have raised an additional investor financing round in the last couple of months. A lot of money is needed for our R&D work, and I won't spend too much time on this, but we basically needed to prove that the technology really works with sequential levels of evidence. We've also had to establish safety and shelf life and, figure out the formulation and plan a scale up for manufacturing. Another critical task that's quite costly and labor intensive in the medical space is regulatory work. You need to develop a quality management system with design controls and document controls. And then all medical devices are regulated by the FDA, and you need approval or clearance before you can sell. And there are various paths that you can take, and you need to identify the appropriate one for your product. You need to present data to the FDA in support of your product. So much of your R&D work is guided by the data that you need for your regulatory clearance. So we've now submitted to the FDA for our diagnostic product, and we're working towards clearance. And it's a slow, very structured, and I would say very inefficient process. And I would definitely list it as a challenge. And then there's the more fun stuff of branding and marketing. This is the packaging that we've chosen for our diagnostic product. So our marketing message is that we are taking advantage of nanotechnology to preserve teeth through earlier diagnosis and non-invasive treatment. Last winter, we received exposure in a dental trade journal when a dentist wrote an article about us entitled, "Can You Imagine This?" along the theme of John Lennon's famous song. So we stayed with the theme at our first exhibit, introducing our upcoming product at the Chicago Midwinter Dental Meeting this past February, where we and our friend John continued the theme of "Can You Imagine?" finding caries early and making white spots fade away. To do this, we transform starch into nanoparticles and then attach functionality so they can be targeted and go exactly where they needed. We are redefining caries control and prevention by eliminating ambiguities in early stage caries detection and hope to improve patient engagement. This is our team. We've grown from the initial Steve and Nathan and I to 8 people now. And this is, we have a big group of dental advisors. This is our dental advisory board. We believe that one of the ways to be successful is to work with the best, and our team is further supported by world-class advisors. We were thrilled to recently be named a 2020 Best of Class Dental Technology Award recipient, where we believe we're solving a big problem that will make people more comfortable to go to the dentist and represents an untapped opportunity for clinic growth and prosperity. So that's a bit of my story and the GreenMark story. I think it shows that there are many paths to becoming an entrepreneur, and there are many years in a typical lifetime, so the timing can be variable. I think in the startup world, there are generally going to be a lot of challenges, but I think hard work and persistence, creative thinking, networking, and passion for your project will help bring success. Thank you for listening.
Wendy, thank you. It's moving forward, right?
It is. Now I'm trying to figure out how I can see you again. Oops. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes.
We'll move to our third panelist, and there will still be time for the questions. So to all the students that are waiting to ask some questions, we'll have time for it. Just bear with me, okay? I want to introduce our third panelist this evening, Stacey Feeley. And Stacey has co-founded a company called GoSili, which is, love the name. So GoSili is built on the principle that we can help our environment create change through reusable silicone. We don't have to use all of the throwaway plastics. We can do a lot of things that we do with plastic just with silicone that at the same time doesn't, it's not toxic to the same degree, and it's way more sustainable for the environment. So Stacey has graduated from University of Colorado, and she moved to Los Angeles in 2000s. Okay, so this is where she found her business partner, Juliana Schwab, and they both embarked on that journey to start GoSili. Okay, so Stacey, before she founded GoSili, she negotiated a number of different music licenses as well. So maybe she will tell us how she used that skill to convince, some people to invest. I'm not sure, but maybe there is a secret in that. Stacey, tell us more about GoSili.
I will. Thank you for the intro. Thank you. I'll share my screen as well. Let's see here. Okay, my entire screen. Click on it. There we go. Okay. Oh, let's see. Hang on. Okay. All right. It's like, sorry, I'm trying to get it to work here. Box. Huh. Let's see.
It's at the very bottom. It says share your screen.
I see that. However, it looks like it's,
I think, Wendy, maybe your button is still, and maybe that's the reason why Stacey cannot share.
You know what? It's actually saying I have a security check. So let me get out of here. Sorry about that, guys.
Okay.
All right, let's see.
Yeah, that's
there we go. So it is, looks like it's coming. Perhaps. Let me try this again.
Wait, she logged out. I hope Stacey will be back. That's the beauty of technology.
Sometimes when you have that security check with an Apple, you have to go back and come back in.
There she is.
Okay.
So, okay, well, I'm not exactly sure what's happening. sorry guys, I do have something to share with you, but it's my security settings aren't letting it do that for some reason. So I will just, I don't know. If I send you a presentation, are you able to share it, Isabella?
Yes, I will be able to share it. Please send it, and
I will send
we
it to
can
you.
do it that way.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and give you an intro. Just I just sent it over to you. And so, as Isabella mentioned, I did go to the University of Colorado, and my background is actually in theater. So I did not study business. I came from kind of a jack of all trades. And oh, there's my youngest. Hey, give me a minute. About 15, almost 15 years ago now, 14 years ago, my partner Juliana and I, who was in Los Angeles at the time, founded the company, and we were these two young moms. She's my third daughter. She's our youngest. But we were these two young moms that were really horrified about all the plastics that were being found or all the chemicals being found in plastic wares. So when we started doing all the research, we asked ourselves, what is it that we could do to really tackle this problem, and how could we create an alternative to get rid of these plastics that everybody was using with their kids. And so what we did is we started playing around with different materials. Oh, yeah. Okay. Awesome.
Stacey, is that you?
Oh, gosh, no. That is not me. That is not me.
Looks similar.
That came out and did a photo shoot for us one day.
Similar.
I wish I was that young again. But if you'll go to the next slide, you'll see this is Juliana, my partner. And as I mentioned, we were really concerned about the toxins that were found in plastic wares. So we started looking for materials that we could use to really tackle that and combat that and to replace some of those plastics. And in doing that, her background, she was the art director for Bon Appetit magazine for 10 years before GoSili. And so she was very familiar with silicone in the cooking space. So what we were doing is we were looking for ways to introduce a new material that had never really been to market before. And, it was either plastic or it was glass. Sometimes there was some stainless things as well. But as we started playing with silicone, we realized that it had all these unique properties. It didn't fade, it didn't scratch. It was really easy to use and clean, and it had a really high temperature resistance, so it wasn't going to break down like plastics would. So we started cutting up all of the silicone oven mitts in my kitchen one day, and we used it to basically skin a glass baby bottle. And in doing that, we realized, okay, we didn't want to be a glass bottle manufacturer, but we could protect the glass bottle. So we skinned a glass baby bottle, and we started dropping it off of, high, off a shelf, and then off of a higher shelf. And then we said, okay, let's see its drop threshold. And so we dropped it off the roof and realized, oh my gosh, we've got this protective silicone piece around this glass bottle, and it's performing really well. And so we realized very quickly that we could replace the plastic bottles with glass, but then apply a silicone sleeve around it. So that's what we started doing initially. And we, in 2008, when Canada banned BPA in their children's wear, we got a call from the Babies R Us buyer, and that's really kind of what put us on the map. Babies R Us in Canada had to get rid of, I think it was like almost 1.5 million plastic bottles that were sitting on their shelves. So they called us to see if we could, send this solution. So we started ordering these glass bottles by the droves and skinning them in my backyard, and you couldn't even move, We had these little kids running around, and we lived next door to a college, and we had all of these college kids come over and start, assembling the bottles with the silicone sleeves as well. And I look back now, and it was so funny to think about, any way every way that you could get it done, you know. But we knew this was a huge opportunity for us. So that was really what kind of set our path in the kids space with silicone and silicone tableware. And in doing that, what we realized is that there was a much larger problem as well. So it wasn't just about tackling the toxins that were found in the plastic wares. It was really about this excessive amount of waste that was happening with all kinds of single-use plastics. And the more we started to learn about that, and the more we started to develop our own line, our mission really transformed. And it became more of a mission of not just replacing those plastic tablewares in the kids space, but really looking at the bigger picture of, oh my goodness, this is a worldwide problem of people using these excessive plastics. And, you know, how do we now go from the kids space into housewares, into sporting goods, into various markets that would allow us to replace some of those plastics? And how do we do it with silicone? And how do we make it so that, you know, people intuitively will take our silicone items and naturally and instinctively choose to replace it over the single-use plastics that they're using, because it is such a convenience factor for people. So for us, we learned very early on that, you know, people don't like to be preached to. So as opposed to going out and saying, you're doing a bad thing by, you know, drinking out of that plastic water bottle, it was easier for us to build a level of confidence in the brand by getting people and customers through design. So if we could design something in silicone that was unique and different and had, you know, simple functionality, they would pick it up off the shelf and automatically do something more sustainable by getting them with the design first, and then the educational pieces to that coming secondarily. So that was always kind of that very quickly became a way for us to engage with our customers, is to talk about the design and the functionality of our products versus the preachiness of, you know, being more sustainable, and getting them to buy it on the design primarily. Since then, and as you can see in this slide, these are just some of the items we currently have out on the market. You know, we started in the kids space with the kids items in that bottom row. That's some of them. But then from there, like I was mentioning, it really morphed into a much larger hydration line and feeding line. And from there, we've been able to really take a look at, you know, what some of the customers are saying and how they're using our goods. And we also really, really believe that the functionality of everything that we make is thoughtful. And sometimes the simplest designs are the hardest, but it needs to be so well thought out that it's almost dummy proof, right? But dummy proof, and also at the same time unique in that its simple nature conveys the message of being able to use it across the board. And one of the other things, just to talk to our mission as to what we are doing, is that we really want to create this cultural shift away from single-use plastics by replacing it with the silicone alternatives. But in order to do that, you have to hit a price point that is affordable to everybody. You know, it's not just talking to the elite, or it's not just a product that the elite should have. To create real change, it has to be affordable to everyone. So that's something that we also really wanted to make sure that we were addressing when we bring any product to the market. Is this affordable for you know, individuals, and will this item create constitute a change in their lives? So these are some of the items that we currently have. We're at Target, Meijer, lots of the large mass retailers, and it was really tough to get there. Like I mentioned, in 2008, Babies R Us called us. That was certainly our first stepping stone, and that did put us on the map. But right after that, the recession happened, and we fell off the map. So where we have landed throughout the whole years is that there are spikes and turns and twists, and there's always a challenge. And as hard as it was initially to get Babies R Us to recognize us, it was equally as hard to get to Target and equally as hard to get to Meijer. And it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. But we have like absolutely learned so much along the way and learn every day. And I thought what I would do on this next slide, as Isabella had tasked us to do, is to really talk about some of the lessons learned along the way. And, 14 years in the whole scheme of thing isn't really a long time. Like I said, my background was in theater. That's what I graduated with, as a theater major. But from there, I did go off into the music industry and write licenses, and met a lot of really interesting people and musicians along the way, and then got started in real estate. But my journey through every single one of those paths or stages of my life absolutely put me in the right setting for where we are today, and meet people along the way. And I think so much about growing any business is who you're out talking to, and who you're surrounding yourself with. I don't think you can ever have a meeting or conversation where you don't necessarily learn something or you don't take something away. You usually always do. So what I thought I would do is just talk about some of the main things that are important to us and what we learned from them. The first one is just taking risks. A lot of people will always ask, how did you first start? And, how did you find the manufacturer? And, how did you even know to do that? And I think for me, and I'd say my partner Juliana too, it was so imperative. There was such this drive to figure out a way to get rid of these toxins in our kids' products that it became really easy when you looked at it from the view of, this is something I have to do, not something I want to do, but something I have to do from your core. And it was certainly about, taking the risks to just start. And by that, I mean, just, picking up the phone, and it doesn't have to be everything all at once, but really kind of making the promise to ourselves that, I'm going to call this one manufacturer today. And then the next day I'm going to call another one. And it was just about like taking little baby steps along the way, because I don't think most startups anyway, I don't think that even if they have a business plan put together, that plan will certainly morph and change along the way. So I think the biggest risk is just not taking that original risk to begin with, and just putting yourself out there and taking those first steps. I think once you start doing that, the steps fall into place, and you'll find yourself, on the path. Your journey has started, but it's literally just a matter of taking that first step. And so that was a lesson that we learned, because at the time I did just have my first child. Juliana had her first child, and we were both working, and we both thought, how in the world are we going to do this? And then the more research we did, as I mentioned, it became this driving force in us to absolutely solve this problem. And so with that comes this next bullet of focus, and just really focusing on that drive. There were so many times where we daydreamed and thought about, oh, wouldn't it be great to, do all these incredible things? And that was fun. Like, the daydreaming is a lot of fun. But where we really learned we needed to land is to just really focus, and to really focus on one thing initially, and to do it right. And that was really, for us, the focus was the material of silicone, and learning all of its advantages, talking to all kinds of suppliers, and really understanding how it works, and how we could set ourselves apart from not only the competition, but how we could be a leader over plastic, to really drive the mission that we were going after. And with that focus, I would also say came the pursuit of perfection. It was very much putting something out to the market that we ourselves would want to use, but there was no apologies. You know, we, in a lesson learned, you know, we did put a couple things out on the market once early on, and it was just to really get a feel for it, to test it. We have these universal silicone straw tops, and they're great in that they turn any cup you have into a straw cup. You just stretch them over the top, and you got yourself a straw cup. But our very first iteration of that, we put out really quickly, and we thought, you know, we'll get it out to the market. We'll see what people say. But in doing that, what it did is it wasn't perfected yet. So it took a lot, and we had customer complaints. Then we lost faith with our retailers who were asking us, well, this keeps carrying. Why are you know, you have to take all these back. So a lesson learned for that was to really focus on this pursuit of perfection and putting something out to the world that there's no apologies, there's no excuses. It will perform and it will act this way, and backing it over 100,000%. And so with that, the next bullet, fail over and over and over again. I do think, you know, and you guys have probably heard that failing it's a good thing. You learn from it. And, you know, I feel like, you know, we fail all the time. And every time we do, we learn from it, and then we don't do it again. But, you know, perhaps we fail again in the same project, but then again, we don't do it again that way. But we've learned that, you know, over the years, it is absolutely okay to do that. And, you know, the lessons learned from failing is I think really, really wonderful. We had a retailer once that, you know, we go, and it was at Bed Bath and Beyond, and they were going to bring in these straw tops that I was telling you about. And we were super excited. The buyer swore up and down, said, "Hey, you know, I'm sending a PO. We're going to order 100,000 units. It's going to be fantastic." And, you know, at the time, we did not have the money to make 100,000 units, and so I knew I was going to have to go raise money. And we knew we were going to have to talk to the banks and perhaps a family and friends round of funding we were going to have to do. And so we took the buyer's word at 100%. And so we went into production, we manufactured all of these straw tops, and then the buyer flipped over. So the buyer actually ended up moving to a different division within the store. And then we had to start all over with a new buyer who didn't like our straw tops. So we had all of these tops now, and, you know, we'd raised money from family and friends to make them. And, you know, and so that was a very hard lesson to learn. You know, you don't do a large production like that until you have, you know, a purchase order. So, and I think part of that was also just naivety, right? So the naivety of not understanding what that retail space was like, you know, initially was part of that. But at the same time, that naivety as to not knowing, I think, is also a benefit sometimes. You know, you don't know that you're not supposed to ask these certain questions, or you don't know you can't go in the back door versus the front. And so for us, a lot of times being naive about something because we were a startup was pretty advantageous. You know, I at one point can remember knocking on Target store, and I was hounding the buyer, "Hey, I'd like to come show you our line." And finally, they just started blocking all of my emails and my calls. So I flew to Minneapolis, and I knew that they were doing a marketing event. And so I went to their Target marketing event, and I knew the buyers had to be there because some of them were talking about what was happening in their space. And I ended up, and this is crazy, but I kind of stalked her. And I found her, and we sat down. She was at the table across from me. We just sparked a conversation. And that was our entry into Target. And it was not conventional by any means. But we didn't have the money at the time to go to the big trade shows that they were attending. And so there are definitely crazy things, I think, that some of that naivety helps you do, and helps push you kind of to that next creative place to accomplish your goals. And then, let's see, I have in here also to listen to advice, but then listen to your gut. So that was also a big learning lesson for us, because we were naive, and because we both, Juliana and I, are like, gosh, we don't know anything about business. It's not our background. we talk to a lot of people, which is wonderful. And I think you have to do that. You have to make connections. You have to talk to lots of people. And I think you have to surround yourself by people that are supportive and will, ultimately be in the same realm of support to keep you going, because it is hard. But one of the things that we learned from now is that we took all the advice and we did all of it. We didn't necessarily break it down. We just said, oh my gosh, that's what we're supposed to do, and we would do it. And looking back now, what we should have done is taken it all in, really evaluated it, been more thoughtful about it, listened to what our gut said, and then went out and did it, or maybe not do it. I think we found ourselves in the first couple years really, really struggling to figure out what advice do we take. And while it was all really great, only some of it worked for us. So that would be my other lesson learned, is that in the end, listen to your gut. I think most entrepreneurs, they actually do know what they're doing. And it might not be a conventional way of doing it, but in their gut, they know what they need to do. And then I'd say partnerships. This is something we get asked about a lot. Juliana and I have been friends for a long time, and people will always ask, how do you run a business with someone and how are you still friends? Like, don't you argue? And, don't you disagree on things? And we always do, but there's this level of absolute respect for one another. Respecting that she is incredible at what she brings to the table. She respects what I bring to the table. And even though we might not agree on something, we respect each other's opinions and what we're talking about and how we get there. And I think when you look at it from that perspective, in the end, you'll continuously, grow and learn from each other. And I think that goes with anybody else, on your team. But for Juliana and I, it is an absolute mad respect for one another and what we bring to the table. And kind of a funny story with our just friendship in general. I call her my second husband because I met not only my actual husband, but also my business partner on the same day. And it was a really, really great day back in like 2000. But so it's just, again, it goes to really, really respecting and valuing what each one of us bring to the table. And then below that, I'd say perseverance, right? So it's super hard. It's really hard to be an entrepreneur, but at the same time, the reward is incredible. The reward to, understand and know that you're making a difference, or understand that, you're solving a huge problem that, maybe you're the only one doing it at the time, but you're creating a shift. You've got a mission and a goal and a passion and a drive, and that perseverance, I think, is what really pushes people to continue to be an entrepreneur, because it is hard. It is difficult. And, I can speak to the time where, we were going to have to go out and raise money, and we were going to all these pitch competitions. And this is while we were in California, and a lot of the angel investment groups, they didn't want to see us because we were a consumer product company. They wanted to talk to, tech companies, and that's not who we were. And so, we knocked on a lot of angels' doors trying to raise money, and they all gave us a no, and, we knew we needed to manufacture our goods. We knew it was going to be really expensive. The minimum orders at the factory was just astronomical for us at the time, and it was very, very expensive, and the tooling and the molds was very expensive. And I think, as Gina mentioned earlier, you're not paying people, and you've got them working beside you because they believe in you. But it is tough, and for me, it was a reminder of that there was a bigger purpose, right? And I do remember one day going and selling some of my gold because we needed to get an advance for one of the molds we had to make. So I had all this like gold jewelry that I was never going to wear. And I was like, I'm just going to sell it, and we'll use it for one of the molds. And so there was, little things like that along the way, looking back now, that, it was just this constant perseverance and drive, and understanding that, while certain days are going to be really, really hard, there are other days that absolutely make up for it that are amazing, you know? And I think along the way, at least I got to a point where it was, I don't know, maybe 7 years in or so. And it was, you know, we were having a down day, down month, down year, whatever it was. And I just remember really feeling like, oh God, like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And at the same time, I was in this like really, really dark place. But then it was the next day I woke up and was like, what am I doing? Like, I have worked so hard to get here. There's no way I'm going to fail now. Like I just, it wasn't even viable. It wasn't an option. So at that point, I think it is back to some of that perseverance where you get to a certain stage and you know, failure is not an option. You know, you have to keep going. So, but with that, this last bullet is super important, at least from what I've learned also, is that you got to take time for yourself. Otherwise you will mentally crack. So, and not only mentally crack, but you know, your family needs you, your friends need you, your loved ones need to be around you. And it is a lot of time and effort that you put into it, whether it's financial or just time in general. And it's draining, and it can be straining on your, you know, family relationships and whatnot. So I think the big one for me is just to sometimes sit back and, you know, at 5 o'clock on certain days, you know, the computer shuts down, I turn my phone off and I don't even look at it, and I spend time with my family. And it, I think, recharges me, but I think my family needs it also. So it's, you know, I think that is also really important, because if you yourself aren't healthy and taking time for yourself, you can't possibly put everything you need to in a healthy way into your own company. So that's it. That's really what I wanted to share today. And I'm so grateful for the opportunity to do it. And I love what I do. And I love talking to other entrepreneurs and people that are interested in doing something as well. I love it. So thank you.
Thank you, Stacey. Thank you. Really fantastic to have you here, and what a story. There will be time for the questions, okay? Our last panelist, Julia Winter, is going to be introduced quickly by Morgan.
Yes, and thank you, Stacey. It was great getting to listen to you a little bit. I have a couple of your products, so it was great to hear the story behind it. So, but up next, our final speaker for the night is going to be Julia Winter, who has been a chemistry professor for many years and has an interesting technology product to help with that.
Okay.
Hello, Julia.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen and hopefully not have the same issues with security. We'll see. So I will go up to the top. And
yes.
Do you see that?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So my company, our company's name is Alchemy, and I actually am pretty impressed with being the fourth of these 4 amazing entrepreneurs. I look at Gina and I think about we're moving into adaptive technology and believe it or not, a software company that's learning how to manufacture. I think about Wendy and her success with SBIR, which we have done, and looking for every kind of resource. So we've done that too. And then I really was touched with Stacey on her thoughtful design, that I think design is super important in any product, and I'm really, really excited about what she's built. So the title of this is Building Alchemy, and it's an educational company from a chemistry classroom. I think we all 4 of us have come to this path very different. Like we didn't go to MBA school and decide to go out and be an entrepreneur. We all did other things. And so what started, I was not a professor, I will tell you, Morgan. I was a high school teacher at Detroit Country Day School from 1994 to 2016. I taught multiple different chemistry classes, but AP Chem and organic chemistry. And then I was a 20-year coach, many of those years as head coach of cross country and track. I loved my job at Country Day. And this is, you know, my last set of students in my last year in 2016 in my amazing classroom at Detroit Country Day. And yes, we are a coat and tie school. It was great. Also, my children got to go to Country Day, and this is a picture at the graduation of Peter in 2008. And Annie graduated in 2006, went on to University of Michigan and got chemical engineering degrees. And my husband is, yes, a chemistry professor at Wayne State University. Now, after they graduated, I just didn't, there wasn't quite the same connection to Country Day as prior. And I started to look for other things. But in the time I was at Country Day was amazing. I had, this is Sid Chan on the cover of CNA News in the Chemistry Olympiad. He was a silver medalist in the International Chemistry Olympiad, really the pinnacle of any chemistry teacher's career, to have a student in the, one of the 4 students in the International Chemistry Olympiad. And then he was on the cover of CNE News, which is the magazine of the American Chemical Society. And then also in 2016, I won the James Bryant Conan Award, which is the top honor for a high school teacher for a high school teacher by the American Chemical Society. So it was a great run. It was wonderful. But I started to look for other things. And then in 2013, I'll go back, I started a summer school course called OChem Prep. And at the end of that summer, I was in the red or the black. I was in the black. We had probably $10,000 in revenue, and I had spent $8,000 in putting the whole thing together. So I had some revenue and it was great, but it wasn't really what I wanted to do. I knew I would just be working every summer. And so I started thinking, are there ways to take my sort of quirky ideas beyond Southeast Michigan? So I filed a patent, patents on 5 ideas, and hired a consulting firm that later became my team and designed what we called the mechanisms game. And we also built another game called Chairs, and that was released in 2014. At the time, we also got BAF funding. We did other things, worked with the SVD tech team, but I started to work on the company. And in 2016, we changed branding from OChem Prep to Alchemy. I wrote a NSF SBIR Phase 1 from my classroom while I was teaching and coaching full-time, and it was funded in early 2016. That gave me the guts to leave my job. I also, at the very same time, were accepted to the Merge Lane Accelerator in Boulder for women-led startups. And we went through a 3-month business accelerator. And in April of 2016, this is me pitching my company in front of 800 people in the Boulder Theater at the end of Merge Lane. And that was a pretty amazing experience. Still just a baby company, but at the end of Merge Lane, we did get some angel investment in addition to our NSF funding. So now I'm going to go sort of into the business pitch. That's the story pitch. But what do we do? And as Alchemy, we have focused on STEM learning. And some of the hardest pieces to teach are the spatial reasoning skills that go with many of the science and engineering and mathematical pieces. Of course, we're starting with chemistry, but we've already built physics and biology interactives. And we create interactive digital experience, and we use game-based learning. They're not necessarily games, but they use this game-based intuitive understanding to present difficult concepts. With our SBIR funding, we got Phase 1 and Phase 2. In Phase 2 TCEP, which is Technology Enhancement Through Commercialization Partnership, and Phase 2B. So through the NSF, we raised about $1.5 million to build tools for organic chemistry they're called Mechanisms and Modeler. They're free apps with an upcharge of $9.99. It's not enough to build a sustainable company, But with those apps, we were collecting data on the back end. So we make these beautiful learning tools, but every single time a student plays, we also capture how they play. So even just 2 weeks ago, our patent that we filed probably 4 months ago was published with global rights on the data collection system of our Mechanisms app. Now, these apps are on the App Store and on Google Play, but it doesn't run very well on mobile browsers, and the technology doesn't go into every platform. And the other problem with education is it needs to integrate with existing learning management systems, or LMSs, like Canvas or Moodle or Blackboard. And so we knew about a year and a half ago, my CTO told me, we're going to have to shift technology. We're going to have to pivot, and we'll have to move away from apps into these lightweight JavaScript HTML5 interactives. And he knew this was coming, and we started to make that change. And with that, with some of our grant funding, the last phases of our NSF phase 2, the TSEP and the phase 2B, we did shift. And we realized also that as we shifted to make these lightweight interactives that collect data on student assessment, that our market was not going to be the college students that we originally were targeting. And the way we targeted them was through going to professors who would use our technology in their classroom. We decided to go after the college publishing market. And so our business model shifted from what's called B2B to C to B2B. So we would be licensing our technology to the content publishers out there, because they were in a bind. They couldn't sell $300 textbooks anymore. There was a lot of free material out there. They also needed to make their new digital textbooks more engaging. Students expected good design. And so we could deliver that. And also, instructors and the education institutions wanted to see how students were doing, and we could provide that kind of data through our systems. So our solution is what we call the Epiphany Learning Platform, which is a combination of both the interactive technology and the data system that allows students to play and experiment and understand concepts, but also we can give that feedback, that formative assessment back to students as they learn. So when they get to, say, a high stakes exam, they already know what they know. And that's really the big thing. We want to change the model of education to, especially in higher ed, to 2 or 3 exams. And if you fail, you have this really just so much pressure on you. We want to build that assessment in early. And also, we started exploring augmented reality and different ways of presenting these 3D materials. Now, as I said, the data that we capture is very interesting and very different than other educational data, because a lot of educational data, it might be time on task, how many clicks, what they answered with A, B, C, D, but ours captures as students make sense of ideas. And so we can capture not only the hard skills, the competency-based skills, but also some of the softer skills, teamwork, persistence, even creativity. And those kind of skills will be useful for future employers. So we don't mean to disrupt education. We would really love to disrupt grades. So what happened in March? March was a huge shift and focus. All of our professors, every single one of them, said, oh my gosh, we need more tools for learning online, because in 2 weeks I'm having my whole class go online. So even the professors that weren't working with us, who knew about us, started using our tools. most educational technology companies in March through May made their platforms free. We did the same. And we started to work with professors. And one of the things we learned was most of our professors were using active learning, and they couldn't really interact with their students in an online environment. Just like now, I am not seeing your faces. I am just seeing my presentation. I hope you're still there. You are still there, aren't you?
Yes.
See? Yes, you are.
Strange.
There you go.
I agree. Julie, I agree with you. It's very strange to talk to students that way.
And you know what? The interesting piece is we got feedback from professors in March and April, and then we've gotten it through the summer, and then this fall. It was actually easier in March and April because they'd already had a relationship with their students. But then when you start in the summer or start in the fall and you don't know them face to face, it's really hard to run an online class. So what we decided to do was build a new synchronous online learning platform that and we started in June, and we have been demoing it right now. We're taking our interactives and adding it to our new platform, which allows for students to help each other in an online environment, but also instructors to see what students are doing and assess their understanding. So COVID-19 was a huge opportunity for us. And because of that, I don't think I want to go there yet. Because of that, it accelerated our talks with publishers. So yesterday, we had a call with 8 of the vice presidents at McGraw-Hill Education about working with us and helping to distribute our new platform. Now, another major problem, the bigger the publisher and the bigger the school, the quicker they ask the question, how do you make your technology accessible to all students, particularly blind and low vision students? This is a huge problem. You would think, well, there's only like 1 in 1,000 blind students in college. Why would you care? Well, you can't sell technology unless it is accessible. So we started solving this problem using augmented reality and physical manipulatives. That goes to, we had to learn how to manufacture. So we got a grant from the Department of Education, IES, for a phase 1 grant in June. So in June, we started a new platform and we started a new product line for accessibility. And we just shipped last week to our first 8 testers, and 4 of which are blind or low vision, and the other 4 are instructors of blind and low vision students. Hopefully getting another $900,000 next June when we successfully complete our phase 1 grant. So that's our product line. It is a set of interactives, a platform for synchronous learning combined with an AR product to help blind and low vision students. And if you look, I put together this competitive landscape for our presentation to McGraw-Hill, looking at what we do differently. And it really is a combination of collaboration ready for online learning, that's our Epiphany platform, with modern assessment methods. And as a business pitch, you always, all of us probably have pitched at Blue Water Angels. We know what they ask. How do you make money? What's your pricing model? So I got used to understanding how to answer that question. So our pricing model initially has been licensing our platform, either our suite of interactive assessment modules or the platform itself, with a one-time engineering fee for design and customization from the publishers. And right now, of the 5 big publishers, we are in talks with 4 of them. Now, it's a hard road to go. Slow. And so you have to figure out all of the things people have said. You have to figure out how to stay alive while they're taking their time. And so we are scrappy, And people have called me the queen of non-dilutive funding. At this point, we've raised $1.8 million in non-dilutive funding and about $1 million in angel funds. And we have a $2.5 million Seed Plus round coming together, but I really need one big deal to be done. And then I have my investors lined up once that's done. So raising money is, and keeping your team alive is really the biggest thing. So these are we talked to both Pearson and McGraw-Hill in the last 48 hours on different projects. So it's been exciting. It's been nerve-wracking. It takes patience. I've had to learn how to read people, how to play good cop, bad cop. My partner, Carl, is the business guy, and he'll say, I think it's your turn to be bad cop. So you have to learn when to move up the food chain, because we have champions at each of these places, but they're not necessarily decision makers. So you have to go and find those decision makers. I love the story about stalking the Target store person. I'm the queen of stalking. I mean, I go after everyone, and don't be afraid. I mean, I heard one person say, we just have to keep punching above your weight class. You can't be afraid, because all they could say is no, and they're going to say no anyway. So you get so many no's. So just keep punching above your weight class and keep going after the people you know can help you. But also, I really like the advice of taking advice, but trusting your gut. I mean, that is super good advice, because everybody's going to give you advice. And then, but you have to realize that sometimes you get whiplash from so much advice. You have to sit down and we have a little index card in our office that says, and this is from my CTO, Joe, we have the courage to listen to ourselves. So there are sometimes we take a deep breath and we go, we have the courage to listen to ourselves. And so, and keep a mission-focused, driven pathway to success. So the other piece that is incredible is building a team that believes in your mission. And this is, I'm missing two people because my artist hasn't made avatars for everyone, but we are a team of 10 based in Troy. One of us, Sarah, is in Minnesota, but the rest of us are all in Southeast Michigan. And we believe a face-to-face team is important. So this has been hard during COVID not to be together. So tomorrow is Tiffany's birthday, and we are having a birthday party, an online Zoom birthday party. And Jeremy's birthday is next Monday. So we're going to figure out something else for them. So it really is important to keep your team together and keep them informed. And actually, you know, you want to give your team leadership opportunities and growth opportunities. So Carl and Joe and I have been together since I started this company early in 2013. And the rest of them, they're youngsters. They're all 30 or younger, but they're amazing. So we have grown a great Troy-based team and hope to grow more as we raise more money and we sign these big deals. And with that, the other acknowledgements, other than my husband, who was my first investor, we've raised money from the NSF, from IES, from MNDC. We did a SKIP grant. We did a first customer grant. We did Michigan ETF. We got Macomb Innovation Fund. And then our angels range from Traverse City in the north to farthest south is St. Louis, farthest west is Colorado, and farthest east is Pittsburgh. Our biggest investors are Blue Water Angels and Bell, Michigan. So I can't say enough about how great those angels are, because they've helped us and they've given us support when we've needed, advice when we wanted it. And they're the ones who said, you know, who made the intro to Isabella to make this presentation. So with that, thank you for your time, and I look forward to any more questions.
Julia, thank you. sounds like really, you know, the good time for you with all the online instruction.
Well, it is an interesting time.
I do have a number of questions, but I really want to open floor first to the students. Anything that you would like to ask our panelists?
See, this is the hard part about online education.
It is very hard.
It's probably easiest. I'm just going to
hard.
say it's really much easier if you put your camera on. I'm just going to say, because we've learned this, and then even just have the guts to ask the first question.
Yeah.
But it's really hard, and I understand that.
We have the first question from Amanda.
It looks like she's still muted.
She is not muted anymore. I don't think so. Amanda, you can speak. Hello? Amanda disappeared. Any other question? Tony, please go ahead. We don't have a chat box, so we really have to speak. Hello, Tony, do you want to ask a question? Anyone else? Anyone else? Vashanti, please ask your question. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Dr. Isabella, for the chance. I would like to ask a question from Dr. Wendy. It's something like more technical. Would it be possible to ask a technical question? I don't know.
Well, you can try me.
Please go ahead.
Okay, this is a question about your rings. So I think normally the nanoparticle has a higher tendency to aggregate, so it will disappear its property. So I would like to ask how stable that colloidal is, colloidal solution, how stable specifically if you want to use in a dental application, it should have a long lifetime of that stability. So how long that colloidal stability lasts?
Right. Well, so I'm not a chemist or a polymer chemist, but I do know that we've tested. We've for our FDA submission, we've had to do shelf life stability, and we do both accelerated shelf life stability, where it's in like a warmer environment than usual, and there's all these different formulas and things you can do to replicate what would the time, etc. But that indicates that it's stable for 2 years, and then we have real-time data for, I think, like 15 months or something like that at this point. So the starch nanoparticles, to my understanding, are very stable, actually. And the beauty of this whole project is that my husband has worked with these starch nanoparticles for 25 years in a completely different application. So he's very familiar, you know, with all the different functionalities, and has a lot of expertise with the nanoparticle itself. So this is just a different application than what he initially used the nanoparticles for. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, probably. So I have
one more. It's a good one.
Yeah, I have one more question. So the care you showed that crystal care, right? Am I right? The crystal
Yes,
care.
the treatment.
So,
Yeah.
so your presentation showed is it a nanoparticle based treatment? I
Right.
don't know.
It's
Is it
the
hydrogel?
It's the same starch nanoparticles. So for the diagnostic, we take fluorescent tags onto the nanoparticle, as well as a positive charge to make it target the Caries lesion, the negative aspect of the Caries lesion. And then for the treatment, because the starch nanoparticle it's more like a sponge, and so they can chemically bond calcium and fluoride and phosphorus into the starch nanoparticle, and then still put positive charges on to target. But the idea is that as the starch nanoparticle goes into the Caries lesion, amylase in your mouth will, and just hydrolysis will dissolve the starch, leaving behind the minerals, which will act as like a nidus and will draw calcium and phosphorus in your saliva to that original nidus, and kind of, we call it remineralization from within.
Have you ever tried something like a hydrogel with some enamel matrix protein? So it would attract more calcium.
Now you're losing me.
Okay. Okay, sorry.
I don't think we have, and I'm not sure why we haven't. If that's a good idea, because but if maybe we should connect after, and you can share your ideas.
Oh, sorry. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I have a good question to all the panelists. How to start? We have a lot of students that may be thinking about an idea. What do you think, from your experience, what is a good first step? What is the right attitude? How should they take these first steps towards their own business?
I think one of the biggest things is talk to customers. I mean, get out there. I mean, when I did Startup Weekend, it was a weekend. It was, you get out there and you talk to customers and you validate your idea. And it can't, you want to trust your gut, but you also have to make sure you make something that people want. So I think number one, how do you start? Get an idea and go out and test it. And just talk about it, as many as you can. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's called customer discovery, and it's a very important thing, and just making sure that your product fits a market and that it's something that's commercially viable. I know one of my sons is an entrepreneur as well, and he actually was accepted to Y Combinator, which is a big accelerator out in California. And that's their tagline. It's make something people want. Yeah. So make something people want.
I agree with both of you. And I think part of that too is, at least from what I've experienced in the past, or just even seeing, is, start really small, test the product, talk to lots of people, surround yourself with all kinds of different individuals to do just that, to test it, talk to them. But it doesn't have to be the big giant picture all at once. Just, start small, start local, start, really kind of getting a feel for what people are saying.
Yeah. I think another thing that I would suggest is that each, in Michigan, it's divided into areas, and the SPDC has organizations like LEAP and Spark, or they're affiliated, and so get involved in every area has their entrepreneurial ecosystem, and they have networking events and different things that you can participate in, and that kind of helps you to understand the lay of the land and who's out there and what the options are and the opportunities and what the funding possibilities are. So I would definitely, take advantage of that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Gina.
Oh, I would just maybe recommend doing some deep dives into the U.S. patent attorney or U.S. trademark patents. You can get lost, but make sure that your idea doesn't exist. Because a lot of times patents will be filed, but nobody commercialized it. And so, you know, when I would propose my idea to professors, the first thing they would do is Google magnetic button adapters. And there are magnetic buttons out there, but there's nothing like this. But, you know, it's a vortex. You will get lost, but you got to do the due diligence and look at existing patents.
Yeah, look at the competition as well, you know. So many people sometimes claim that there is no one else, and it's a very,
if there's no
very
one else, there's no market. I'm just saying.
So many, you know. So
you want to have competition, you know. You want, because that means there's a market. That means that you can. I always think of my competitors as my potential customers. So I love I know them all. They know me, and I'm always friendly. I'm sickeningly nice.
I love it. I think you can learn a lot from your competitors, you know, especially how you do it better, but you learn a lot from them.
Absolutely.
So I just want to quickly tell all the students that are listening to us right now, you know, we mentioned patents, we've mentioned different grants, you know, and some of the students that maybe haven't taken entrepreneurial classes are hearing about these things for the first time. Don't feel, if you're thinking about starting something, don't feel intimidated. Come, let's talk to us. There are a lot of ways to skin the cat, you know, so don't assume that maybe there are some things you don't know, and you know, that's the end of the journey. That's just the beginning. And again, you know, we are here to help, and there are many ways to do it. We are ready here to help with that. How to get the funding? How to get the funding?
Be ready to bootstrap. I mean,
the first idea is, how do I start? And then there is the second thought, oh, I don't have any money.
You won't.
Yeah, and that's okay. I mean, Julia, you're so right. We did a family and friends round. We used money that our family had saved, and it wasn't a lot. Like, we never ever had enough money. And you know, one avenue would close, and then the next one would open. And I think you get creative about all the various things available, and you keep looking. You know, so you know, and I don't think you need $1 million to have $1 million idea or a company. You know, if you have an idea, you know, you will find it. If there's a will, there's a way. You will absolutely find it. And it is a lot of it. You know, people will tell you no. The angel investors will tell you no. But it's just a matter of perseverance and the continuation of looking in all kinds of different directions. We've done Kickstarter, we've done Kick Further, we've done all the various angel groups in Michigan, several, and you know, other areas as well. And some of them invested, some of them didn't, and that's okay. But you know, I think funding can be found in so many different places. It's just a matter of really diving in and digging it up.
Yeah.
Right now, I think what we're looking at is revenue is the best funding ever. So, I mean, money solves a lot of problems. Customers solve a lot of problems. So find a way to get to market and find a way to sell your product. I know it's harder for people like Wendy. I mean, you know, with the medical thing, you're not gonna get to market and sell things right away because you have all that approval to get through. But if you have anything that you can find a way to sell, I think that solves a lot of problems. Talking from a woman who doesn't have that much revenue, though, I'm going to say I'm not.
Julia, maybe your next customer.
Pardon?
I may be your next customer
Oh,
because
there
I
you
need
go.
to, for a very particular reason, I need to brush up on my chemistry and biology. Or entrepreneurial, actually.
I was going to say, I think a
Wendy.
number of us mentioned the state grant. There are some state grants and funds that are available as well that were very, very helpful for us. The Business Accelerator Funds, and we used something called a SKIP funds. Can't even remember what it's called now, or what it stands for now. But there are definitely state funds that are available for startup companies.
There are. So students, please come and, we'll find something.
I would say too, throw in just like a company like Kickstarter or one of those platforms for consumer products or those early stage ideas. Even if let's say you needed to raise $20,000, even if you don't raise that money, you gain so much information and so many eyeballs on a platform like that where millions and millions of people come to. And it's a really good marketing tool, but I think it's kind of a quick and fast and furious way to figure out what people are going to say about your product.
Yeah,
so
right.
While you might not raise the money, hopefully you will, you'll get a real good customer feedback, and then you might get someone who asks to, fund you in a different way. That we've experienced that in a way too, but again, it's utilizing just platforms that are readily available. I don't know if anybody's pitching right now these days in the age of COVID. So what are they doing online, and what do those platforms look like online?
Yeah, Kickstarter is a good one for a variety of different projects. Yeah. So I asked 2 questions in a row. Are there any questions from the students that you would like to ask, one panelist, but perhaps, a number of ladies? Any questions out there? There have to be some questions.
Well, I'm going to say, since they're not saying anything, one piece of advice, and this is what I said to some of the interns that I've had in my team, if you go to any networking event, I want you to come back with 10 business cards. Have the guts to go up to somebody, shake their hand, say what you're doing, why you're there, and what you want to learn. I mean, so it's really, I'm mirroring this because nobody's asking questions. Well, to be a businesswoman, you have to be, like Stacey. Like, I'm not taking no for an answer target. So but you never know, whenever you're at any event, where those stones will take you across the river. So even though you don't want to ask questions here, realize that the next time you go to any networking event, you should come home with at least 10 business cards. That's my advice to you.
Love it.
Well, and then you can quickly turn the table on that person, asking them what they do and what kind of, as a student, maybe what opportunities they are offering. So it doesn't have to be as awkward. There are ways to make it a little bit less awkward. Any other pieces of advice, for younger people out there? Is it worth it to be an entrepreneur?
I think if you have an idea and you don't act on it, you will kick yourself later. Or just be prepared to, in the future, be like, gosh, why didn't I do that? So I think if you have any qualms of looking back and realizing or worried about that, then you should probably at least give it a shot.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Any other questions? very quiet. They are quiet, but they are listening. Okay, that's a good thing. How did you go about assembling your team? Because, you know, in each and every story, you didn't do it. It would have been so overwhelming to do everything solo. How did you network? How did you look for the right people? And, you know, Julia was talking about it already, but any advice on that front? How to connect with the right individuals?
I think for us, it was back to that networking piece, you know, just putting yourself out there and, you know, talking to as many people as possible, your friends, your family, people outside of that space in your neighborhood, saying, hey, I am looking for someone to do our books. I'm looking for someone to do financing, or I'm looking for someone to head up operations. And you just start putting it out there. You start asking around, and feel like every time we've ever done that, we've walked away with, you know, someone that's been a part of our team, at least for a little while. And, you know, and I think then you start to find people and individuals that when they share your passion and your vision, they will, I mean, they'll work those late nights with you, because they're just as dedicated. And I think you start by, you do that by surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals, but also just asking around.
You know, I had a funny, because you talk about finding somebody to do your books. I put it out on Nextdoor in Bloomfield. Like, I needed a bookkeeper. In 24 hours, I had, 10 applicants for my bookkeeper job, which was great. But then I had one guy who was a finance MBA from USC. And I'm like, you're a little bit overqualified. Well, he actually is now like our fractional CFO. So it just was totally serendipitous. And his wife is helping us with overall design. So I just happened to stumble upon this power couple in my neighborhood that was, I don't know, it's just sometimes serendipitous when you find the right people.
Yeah. Yeah.
In our case, we so we started with a team of 3, and we've been together the entire time. But the next person we hired actually was working with one of the angel groups, or Invest Detroit, I think, as a summer intern, and did the due diligence on our company. And he was in law school and ended up joining our team when he was finished, because he just liked the idea and he wanted to get involved in a startup. And then our next hire was also an intern for us last summer, who then stayed on because she had finished her master's degree, but she started as an intern. And now this past summer, we've had an intern who I think will probably be joining our company in January when he's finished. So in our case, we've gotten to know people through the company, either internships or whatever, and then they've just stayed on. And that gives you an opportunity to get to know them, and they share the passion, and so that's how it's worked for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I add to the networking piece too, because I do think it's so important. And when we were early in the company and we were still skinning all those glass baby bottles, we went to a show and ended up talking to a company called Even Flow Feeding, and they've been around for 100 years. And struck up a relationship with a woman who was doing their marketing, and 12 years goes by. And all of a sudden I get a thing from her on LinkedIn, and we kind of stayed in touch, but I didn't know much as to what was going on. But 12 years later, full circle, she reached out and she said, you guys are doing some really interesting things. Would love to sit down and talk. And that turned out to an acquisition. So that early meeting brought us back together in a full circle 12 years later.
Wow.
So it was well worth the networking, I would say.
That's pretty amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, it works.
It does.
Yeah.
We are a little bit behind with time. I want to thank you very much. 2 hours, 40 minutes, time went by really quick. Thank you so much. And I want to ask all the students to kind of tune in to all of our events. And I want to really thank our great panelists. In case any student has a question after the event, could there be a way to connect still? Because maybe someone was shy or maybe something crossed their mind. I want to thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Isabella.
Thank you. I got it wrong. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the
was
invite.
fun. You have made my night. So thank you all the students, and keep in touch. Check out our website and there will be more events coming up. Well, thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you. Thanks, Morgan.